We're camped at the lake, fish are jumping, and I'm cooking. Okay, so we're up at Lake Isabella here in California. We're about an hour, so the campsite we're in is about an hour and 15 minutes east of Bakersfield. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about the lake later on. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to cook what I'm going to call a poor man's brisket. Basically, I'm going to completely murder this tri-tip is what I'm going to do. So if you ever get to where you just really want brisket and you don't want to go through the expense of it, sometimes briskets can be pretty expensive, or if you don't want to invest the time, or maybe you don't have the time to invest, this is one way to kind of pull that off. And I did this a couple times before, just, you know, I was curious is what it was. So I'm gonna cook a tri-tip like this, and I cooked it like a brisket. And I cooked it for a long time until it, you know, hit a certain point, and man, you could really hardly tell the difference, to be honest with you. It doesn't take as long. It doesn't have as much heavy stuff inside of it that has to be rendered. So yeah, I was pretty surprised with it. So I've done it, you know, after that first time, I've done it a couple times since then. So today, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing all set up once I get my hands washed here. And I'm going to spice it with just my standard barbecue rub. So let me show you how I do this. Okay, I'm going to prep this very much like I would an actual brisket. So I'm going to take this silver skin off of here. I'm not going to be doing any delicate work on this today. This is what's going to be for dinner, and it's not something I'm working on making like competition pretty or nothing like that. So if it's a little gougy, pardon me. But I just want to get this off the tip. I always buy my tri-tips untrimmed because I can trim them myself, and in most cases they're quite a bit cheaper because you're not paying for the talent that normally will do this for you when you buy a pre-trimmed piece of meat. The less the butcher has to handle it, the cheaper it's going to be. Rule of thumb. So I'll get this off of here. That's good enough for that side. On the back side, you can find the tri-tip has a pretty heavy duty fat cap on it. I'm not taking any of this off. There's already been some removed that I kind of wish wasn't, but I'm going to leave this on here because we're going to need to have as much available fat as possible while we're cooking this, because unlike a brisket, this doesn't have that heavy duty connecting tissue in it, and it doesn't have as much of them collagens and fats inside of it. So, you know, that being said, without any fat in this meat, for the amount of time we got to cook it to make it where we want it, it would be extremely dry. So we need this there for basting. We need to cook it at a low temperature. I'm talking 225, 250 degrees. If you get the temp too high, then this fat renders too fast, and then your meat's just going to tighten up. And you know, we want it to get to that tightened up point and still have a lot of basting to do, because it's going to have to go past that. And as the collagens inside kind of melt away, that's when we start getting that texture that makes it emulate a brisket. So, having said that, let's go ahead and put some rub on it. Now you can spice this any way you want to. There's a lot of different ways to spice up a brisket. Sometimes you might want to do it Texas style with just some salt and pepper. You can give it Santa Maria spicy by adding some garlic powder into that. In this case, I'm going to use my go-to rub. It's one that I make, and it's just got all the basic stuff in it. It's got smoked paprika, salt, black pepper, granulated garlic, granulated onion, just all your standard barbecue stuff. So, and I'm going to coat it heavy. And I'm putting this stuff on about 5 hours before I'm going to actually put it out there to cook. That's even better if you do it a day before. So get it well coated, and I'm going to put this in a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to let it sit out here, come up to room temperature. If it's that really hot time of year, you may not want to do that. You might want to put it in the fridge, let it sit in there for a while. Okay, so we are all rubbed down, and I'm going to put this into a Ziploc baggie, and I'm going to let it chill for a few hours, and then I'm going to put it on the counter and bring it to room temperature. And out here where we're at, it's supposed to get up to 80 today, but we're inside of my fifth wheel rig right now, and it's not going to be 80 in here. I guarantee you I ain't going to let that happen. So we'll let it come up to room temp, which is going to be around 72 degrees inside the rig here. And I'm going to put this on my miniature Weber WSM. I'll show that to you in a little while as we get it set up to do this cook. So this is the Weber WSM, the Mini, and these are really popular when you're out RVing and stuff, camping. It's got an 18-inch grate on it. This is the firebox at the bottom. This is and that there would be Oscar and Whitey. So you got the firebox, which is at the bottom. This is a vertical bullet smoker. Weber makes these in 3 different sizes, and they're really, really good smokers. And then the cooking chambers here. You got 2 grates, one on top of the other in a water pan. We're not going to be using the water pan today for what we're doing. I usually use that for smaller meats that take a long time to cook, like ribs, because I need the moisture in the pit, but I'm not going to need it with this. So basically, we're going to heat some charcoal up here in the chimney, and we're going to dump it into the firebox, and then we're going to put the cooking chamber on it, put our Faux brisket on, and put the lid on, and we're going to let it run for a few hours. So we'll keep checking back on this and see how she goes. Coals are ready, so we're going to go ahead and dump them on in there. It's getting a little windy this afternoon up here at the lake, so if you're picking that up in the microphone, I apologize. I don't have really the right kind of gear for this environment, but we'll do the best we can. Alright, so we got our firebox going. We're going to put the cooking chamber on it. Okay, so now we're going to put this beautiful piece of meat up here on this grate so it can catch all kinds of smoke. Keep in mind, the secret to this is to keep that temperature down, 225, 250 at the very max. And we're just going to let it go for hours. I'm going to let it go to that inside temperature, just like a brisket. It gets up about 205 to maybe 210 degrees, and then we'll rest it out just like we do a brisket. So now it's just a matter of time, so we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so we let this dude ride for about 3 hours now. It's been cruising right around 250, so it's been doing really good. It got a little dry on top a little bit. We're not worried about that because we're going to change it up here. But 225 to 250, it's been a windy day up here on the lake, so a little bit of fluctuation in temperature, but I'm using the RV here as a windbreak, so it's worked out really well. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get my foil pan. We're going to move the tri-tip into that foil pan, and we're going to add a little bit of mop in there, which is basically just a beef broth that I put together. And then we're going to go ahead and cover it with some foil and let it ride out that way. So I don't know how much longer it'll be before it's actually finished. I know it's going to be at least an hour, maybe 2 hours at worst. So figure 2 hours at worst makes it a 5-hour process compared to what I usually have to allot at least 12 hours to get a good brisket. And it's worth it for a good brisket. But if you want to get something that's pretty doggone close, and I mean if you do it right, it's pretty close. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to go a whole lot into the breakdown of the processes and stuff like that. Look at my brisket video. It's a fairly recent video, I think a month or two old at the time I'm putting this one together, so it shouldn't be too far behind. But look at that brisket video if you want to get a little bit more detail of what goes on with the meat as you're cooking it. and just realize that brisket is cooking on steroids compared to working with the tri-tip to do a faux brisket like what I'm doing today. So, this little 18-inch Weber doesn't leave a lot of room on the outside. I want to make sure this lid fits on there tightly, so I'm just kind of rolling these sides up a little bit. Now we're going to add the mop in, and this is going to give us some moisture, help break down those collagens on the inside of this meat. And I'm not going to pour it over the top. I want that bark to kind of set up on there. That's good. Maybe a little too much, but that's all right. Then we'll give it a foil wrap. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this up and let it run for about another hour, 2 hours. We'll check it in just a little over an hour or two what it looks like. And then it's going to come out and rest, and it'll rest as long as it takes. So we might get this done within 6 hours, which is about half the time it takes for a real brisket. So there we go. Alright, we just pulled it off the pit and brought it inside here. This is no longer a tri-tip, it's what I call a faux brisket. So it hit about 199 degrees, wrapped up in the foil. I got it resting right now. I'm not going to open it up and let it steam out or anything. I want it to sit there because I didn't quite get all the way up to the temp I wanted. We got a lot of wind and stuff going on outside, but I can handle that, and that's what you do sometimes when you're cooking outdoors. You improvise. So I know what my target is, and I brought it in, I rested it out, I stuck a thermometer in there. It was about 199 when I brought it in. Right now it's climbed up to 200, almost 203 degrees, 202.51 or something. And it's going to climb up probably till 205, 210, anywhere between there. And we'll leave it in and just let that moisture do its job. And when it gets done, it'll rest down 20 to 30 minutes. And then we'll go to slicing. I'll show you what we got. You're going to be pretty amazed with, I guarantee you. Take a look at this.